Less unpleasant than finding out you've got cancer.
You still, today, need to find out as much information from as many sources as possible before you make your decision. Because this decision is about your life and the life of your family, because they're going to suffer if you're suffering. So you really, really need to know where you're going down the road with this. And the choices you make, although they're going to be your own, need to be made in a prudent manner.
I did have several second opinions. I had a third opinion and I had a fourth opinion, and then I just decided to go ahead with surgery.
I didn't particularly want surgery. The reason I didn't want surgery is the fact that I had heard some scary results as a result of that. Like, in other words, incontinency, erectile dysfunction, and goodness knows what else. So I thought, okay, if I have other options, brachytherapy being one, or radiation, then I will go for the brachytherapy. And I'm pleased that I did, because there were really no side effects. I have been asked what was the treatment like, and I said, well, basically it was just sort of like going to the dentist. And for me it really was, even though yes, I was out for a few hours or whatever, but I woke, felt fine, really had no really side effects that I can say, other than the side effects that really happened somewhat afterwards.
I grew up in the Caribbean, and there in those days, and probably still now in the Caribbean, when you have major illnesses like that, cancers and so on, the natural reaction is to get it out of the body. So my natural thing immediately was surgery.
So I wound up taking radiation, and it would appear that it has had 100% success at this point. The thing that I remember most of the 8 weeks of radiation that I went through was that, boy oh boy, I had to pee a lot through the day. So I learned where all the washrooms were in, in all the stores or malls that I would go to. And the other thing was I must say, I found that as I got towards the late stages of my radiation treatment, when I say that, I had 8 weeks of 39 treatments, 5 a week for almost the full 8 weeks. I would say by weeks 7 and 8, I was feeling kind of run down, just tired. And how did I deal with that? I just went with it, you know. I would lay down and have a nap when I was tired. And but other than that, you know, I really I didn't have very many side effects from the radiation at all.
So today's side effects may not be as bad as what I've gone through, but there is always room for error, and you need to be prepared for it.
With radiation, I've had some issue with radiation in my bowel, and I was just in actually to see the urologist, because there's, they call it a, remember the name in a second, but a narrowing of the urethra, and I've had some issues with the bladder. But nothing major, but I get occasional bladder infections, and that's apparently a side effect of radiation. I wasn't aware of it before I went in for it, but I have it, and I'm dealing with it.
The side effects of the treatment were pretty minimal. Apart from the post-surgery, I had a radical prostatectomy, so you know, there was the initial couple of days in the hospital, and then another 6 weeks of basically very little physical activity. Once that 6-week point had passed and I had spoken to the surgeon again, or he had examined me, he said, get back to doing what you were doing. So I did. I reinstated my membership at the local fitness institute, and got back to working out and to training for a marathon, or for a half, at that point, for a half marathon.
I'd heard from 2 or 3 people that had gone through a similar treatment as myself, what it was like and how long it took for them. And through the prostate cancer support group, I recognized that there was a wide range of potential time it would take to get for the incontinence to go, and in some cases it never goes.
I was aware to a degree that there could be, and that's clear here, could be side effects such as incontinence, and that generally speaking that would go away after a while. And unfortunately for me, it's going on 11 years now, and my side effects are actually worse today than they were after the surgery. So the incontinence has not gone away, and I've been left permanently in overnight dependent diapers and overflowing and unable to work. So nobody can really say what the side effects are going to be after the surgery, because each surgery is different.
I think I was fairly blessed with the side effects, that I didn't have many side effects with the treatment. My incontinence took about 3.5 months to get rid of, and I could feel myself going through improvement every 3 or 4 weeks. And it was I guess I was quite pleasantly surprised when I was able to walk the golf course, play 18 holes of golf without having to wear a pad, and that was about 4.5 months after treatment.
Incontinence was handled through doing my Kegels and doing exercises for the sphincter muscles that I did have remaining. And I luckily didn't have any incontinence after about 2.5 months. It was fine. If I yawned, sometimes if I laughed too loud, sometimes something would happen. I could feel a little leakage, but after a while I learned to control that, and that subsided.
I did have incontinence, and I had it quite badly actually immediately after the surgery. It took about 3.5 to 4 months to clear up, but I did the Kegel exercises for that. And I was also very rigid in maintaining records of what I drank, when I drank it, how much I drank. So I kind of monitored what juices, for example, made me have generated more urine than less, and so on and so forth. And
I learned about Kegels and Kegel exercises, and I started doing those, and I did them right up until the day I was operated on. So that basically virtually eliminated the incontinence issue.
The Kegel exercises will not work for me in my case because of the scar tissue. I could do Kegel exercises till I was blue in the face, and the muscle is never going to be strong enough to move the scar tissue that is formed.
he sent me to a pelvic physiotherapist, and going through the Kegel exercise with her and so on, I figured out really and truly how it should be done, and almost immediately I started noticing a change, so I knew it was going to get better. And she also did tell me it would take anything up to 6 months.
I guess one of the worst things was when I went into bladder retention, which means that I just can't go because things have closed up and gone into spasm. And I went through over a year of catheters in and catheters out until finally they decided that I should learn how to self-catheterize. And that was quite an experience, and I guess one of the big things I can say about that is if you are in that situation, make sure you have all the information you can, not just about how to catheterize, but the quality of catheters and so on that you're going to use, because they really make a huge difference in your comfort level.
Having to use a catheter, that was the most uncomfortable thing out. And to be honest with you, throughout the entire process, that is the one thing that remains in my mind, how uncomfortable it was.
What I experienced in side effects was actually more from hormone treatment. I had to have hormone treatment initially to shrink the size of the prostate, because of course the brachytherapy was to follow. But for the side effects with hormone treatment, that was really quite something I would not want really any man to go through, because what it is virtually going through menopause, the same as what women do experience. So there was the hot flashes, the mood swings, fatigue, just an all-round sense of like sort of being unwell, and somewhat at not really like being who I am right now. My body isn't the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't feel right.
All I can say about hormones is I'm glad I'm not on them anymore, but it wasn't the end of the world. I thought it was going to be the end of the world. I almost didn't go on them. I almost said no. And there's where my wife came in again, and friends who said, look, this is what they're recommending. This is temporary. Just do it. And I did it, and I'm very glad I did.
I wasn't prepared for the side effects. I was told about the side effects. But that's a little different being told than the actual experience. And so therefore, when they started happening, it was like, first of all, what is this? Oh, that's what a hot flash is. Is this what this is? So where I'm totally drenched almost on the upper part of my body, and I'm sweating, and I really feel very weak, and I need to sit down. So I guess this is what a hot flash is all about. But I was not prepared for that, because even though, yes, I was told, but that really didn't figure into what this was really all about. So that was part of it. Another one was the fact that there was also the change of mood swings. Like, why am I feeling angry right now when there's no sense of feeling angry, but yet here I am, I'm angry. So I wasn't prepared for that either. So, and the way I dealt with it is like, I thought, okay, I guess this is it. Bring it on.
Sexual side, that's been a long, hard struggle. Sorry about the pun, but it's been a long, hard struggle. It took a long time for me to feel any urges again, and certainly spent numerous conversations with my wife in terms of how she felt and how we felt together as a relationship. Probably grew a little differently, and we still have difficulty.
Erectile function, this is the time of erectile dysfunction for all the boomers, and thanks to you boomers, there are plenty of options for handling that. So I used some of those options, and they worked out well.
My sexual performance, I have to admit, has been definitely affected. Although I think things are coming back to life that way, and I was told it takes time, and I have hopes and expectations that that will happen. But how did we deal with it? With understanding. It's like communication, and just making sure that that my wife understood the impact that was probably going to happen, and it did happen, and she's been very understanding, and we, like I say, we hope that in the near future things are going to start to get back to more of a normal type functionality.
The biggest part of all that was my wife and how she had to deal with the symptoms and the side effects along with me. Because I felt badly that I couldn't do what I needed to do for her, but I have other tricks up my sleeve that I could use to keep that part of our relationship whole. But that was probably the hardest part, not being able to be aroused on demand. Right? I needed assistance, and I felt vulnerable for the first time. Other than being under the knife, that was probably where I felt the weakest as a man.
The brachytherapy did not leave me with incontinence, but what it did leave me with, though, was erectile dysfunction. That has been very frustrating, because I've always been a somewhat sexually active man, and to have that virtually sort of taken away from me in just virtually one procedure is not very nice. And then how do I deal with this? How do I, tell a partner that this is what might or might not happen? So I actually find that actually very, very frustrating.
I was probably not prepared for the sexual side of it. I didn't realize that the radical prostatectomy would in fact slightly reduce the length of my penis as it does. And that was a little bit of a surprise. And as I say, it's taken some considerable time to work ourselves up back again into our relationship the way that we want it.
Erections are not easy to come by anymore. No, I'm going to hopefully have that corrected. I've taken Viagra, Cialis. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So I do believe that masculinity has a great deal to do with our sexual prowess, and also and that confidence that goes with that. When that dies or when that goes, that prowess or that sense of maleness and that sense of masculinity also goes with it.
In discussions with my wife and in times that we were not able to have sex in the normal way, it required some conversation. So we were not able to have normal sex for several years, and we had to find other ways of doing it, other ways of being close, other ways of maintaining the closeness that a married couple should have. And there are other ways of doing that. I don't mean other ways of having sex, but other ways of filling that void, if you like, and doing it in a way that is successful for both of you. And I think it opened up a dialogue with her that I had never had before, never had to have before, because everything was fine. I didn't have any erectile dysfunction whatsoever.
It hasn't impacted my perception of myself as a man. Yes, certain things have changed in terms of my manhood, if you will, but that wasn't ever my primary focus in life, and it certainly wasn't my primary focus as part of the treatment regime. In fact, when the surgeon asked me what I wanted, I said, I want you to get rid of the cancer. I would prefer not to be incontinent, and as far as impotence or erectile dysfunction goes, I've had a pretty good life up until now, and if that's a problem, then I'm sure between mechanical issues or chemistry, we can overcome that problem.
And that did affect my brain for a while, but we've rebuilt that. We're now having regular relations, and we are enjoying sex again, and our marriage is very strong. And I'd say, is it stronger than it was before? In some ways I think it is, and now that I think about it, because we're more open with each other. We're very confident about talking about our sexual issues with each other, and obviously women as they age go through their own changes, so she's been going through the change herself, and we are mature adults now in our late 50s, and we've had to make a number of readjustments, but we're still very much together.
And whatever happens, remember to put one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward.
I think I am probably the perfect example of a guy who didn't want any of these treatments. I went through all of them, and here I am, and I feel fine, and my life is good, and just do it, because living is better than dying.